what bioinformatics really is. So, from my perspective, bioinformatics is basically a field that helps us to make sense of all of the information that is generated by the tons. Basically, it is one of the fields that has really helped us in growing and establishing a better understanding about how the world works. So this is bioinformatics from my side. But the bioinformatics can be viewed on from various different perspectives, and one of the things that is very unique about bioinformatics is that this is a science that helps us to make sense of all of other information that we've gathered. For example, if we want to study anything related to the cellular machinery, what we need to do it is we need to imply bioinformatics, but from a certain perspective. So bioinformatics has its own way of looking at life. And what are the bigger perspectives in which bioinformatics basically looks at science? The first perspective basically deals with the perspective of the cell. It basically revolves around the center diagram of life. That is the DNA, it is transcribed into RNA and then translated into proteins. So what bioinformatics looks at this is that it can either use the information of the DNA sequences or the sequence of the genome, or it can use the information of the transcriptome, that is the RNA, or it can use the sequences of the protein. And what exactly bioinformatics can do with this information, it can use cellular or computer organisms as well as various database to make an understanding about the cellular and molecular biology of not only of the individual genes and the proteins, but also the cellular pathways in which these things and these processes they are organized. So ultimately all of this information it goes on ahead to develop a particular understanding about how things work, develop that therapeutics, to develop diagnostic markers and everything. So basic understanding of these things it is important, and bioinformatics helps us to understand all of these basic perspectives. So the one perspective of looking at science with the lens of bioinformatics is just to look at it with the help of the cell. The next thing it is to look at life is with the help of an organism at an individual or an organismic level. It is we can view this in the sense that organisms are living in an environment and they're easily influenced by the environmental and the physiological parameters. So what impact these physiological chemical parameters have on that individual, it leads to differential expression or varied functions within a living organism. So for example we can understand this by helping getting an understanding about microarray technology. It's a new technology and it's very useful because of all of the different sequences that are available to us. So in order to understand the differential expression in different living organisms or of an organism in different environmental conditions, what we can basically use is this micro RNA technology and microarrays, and basically they are based upon the sequence information that is collected with the help of bioinformatics tools. So this is another perspective in which bioinformatics can be viewed. The third perspective in which we can view bioinformatics, it is the evolutionary perspective. If we want to find out how organisms are related to one another, this information can be obtained by comparing sequences of different organisms that we have obtained over the period of life. So these are the three perspectives in which bioinformatics can look at life, and this really makes sense that all of science can be looked at either the very basic level of molecules, molecular, or we can look at it at an individual level, or we can see it in the evolutionary perspective. So these are the three perspectives that can be viewed in the context of bioinformatics. So initially what we need to do it is we need to create an understanding about the sequences of DNA, RNA and protein in order to analyze them individually, and then in a level of interaction, for example in sort of pathways, or and then comparing them in individuals, or then comparing them in different phylogenetics, right? So first of all we have to do it is we have to understand how to obtain the DNA or RNA information about the protein. So this section is going to be dealing with how to obtain this information. But why do we really need to have this information? So just as a basic background, and the need of bioinformatics is basically illustrated with the help of this example. It is that this whole story began in 1995, where the first genome of Haemophilus influenza was sequenced. So after that, there was a remarkable increase in sequencing technologies, and the number of sequencing projects, it just basically elasted. And the thing that coupled this progress was the cost of sequencing. Not only the number of sequencing projects increased, but the cost of sequencing projects decreased rapidly. And this decrease basically made sequencing readily available to a lot of people, a lot of scientists. So there is an ample of data that is generated by a single laboratory that is working on sequencing, and comparing them to all of the sequencing projects that are running in the world. So there is a huge amount of data that is generated every single day, and that data is useless without proper interpretation. So this is where the bioinformatics comes on in. And in this series, mostly beta globin gene and its protein and its mRNA, it is considered because one of the reasons it is that it is a lot of research is done on this beta globin. And the second thing is that it's really easier if we can understand an information about an established criteria. For example, if we understand all of the retrieval sequences and analysis regarding the beta globin gene, and then building on that information with other genes, it's going to be a bit easier. But for the sake of understanding, I'm going to be using other examples of other genes that I find interesting other than the beta globin gene. So we're not only restricting our information to beta globin gene. But other than this perspective, what information can we get from this gene? So we know that within our cells there are chromosomes, and in those chromosomes there are genes, and those genes are transcribed into mRNAs and then translated into proteins. So in this particular case, this is it's the protein that works in a component beta globin, and it comes together to form the hemoglobin protein. So there are two perspectives with which we can deal with all of this information. We can either individually analyze the mRNA, the proteins or the genes individually. We can take this information, we can compare the human beta globin gene with the beta globin gene of other organisms. We can see the differences, the points where there have been additions, deletions, etc., etc., etc. Or we can deal with this information in a sense of a larger context, or a context in which we have to solve a problem. For example, if we're very ambitious, we want to identify all the variants that have been identified across human globin genes. So there is a population, and we want to identify all of the different variants that exist, all of the different sequence variations available in the population, and we can understand the divergence or we can understand all of the different evolutionary perspectives of this gene in a population as well. So this is the two contexts in which we can basically look at the human beta globin gene, and overall the perspective of how we can tackle problems via bioinformatics. So just to give an idea about the major players that we are going to be listening in the world of bioinformatics, these are the databases, the central databases that harbor majority of the information, and these are the places where we can go and retrieve our desired information. So the biggest players are the NCBI, the ENA, and the Databank of Japan, and these are all coordinated in an effort to get information centralized, and we can and all of these databases are really interconnected. They have certain parameters of their own, but they are basically interconnected, and hence they share this information. So based upon the particular type of information, if we have to procure it, we have certain DNA specific databases, we have RNA specific databases, we have protein specific databases. So for the DNA level data, we can procure the sequence stack sites, we can have genomic service sequences and high throughput genomic sequences. We're going to be dealing with this particular terminology in specific requirements when we have to analyze like human data or something else. So we're going to be discussing about this later, but the general idea over here is that there are specific databases from which we can get specific sort of information regarding the DNA. Especially for the RNA, we can get information regarding the cDNA databases, the express sequence tags, and the Unigene. And for the protein level information, we have various resources. For example, the SwissProt, the protein data bank of the protein data bank, and then UniProt, which is a very authoritative and a comprehensive protein database. So over here, what I'm trying to show you, it is the basic interface that we can face when we enter the NCBI in any sort of function. So what we are going to do, it was just on your genome browser. We are going to search for NCBI, and a bunch of stuff that is offered at the NCBI pops up. We have BLAST, we have PubMed, and so on. And when we go to NCBI, these are all of the databases at which from which the information can be retrieved from NCBI. So in this, particularly when with the name to procure the sequence of human beta globin gene, I will search for human beta globin, and then just search for this. We can also search for proteins. We can also search for all sorts of data that is available, and basically it is just whatever we want. We can search it from there. So this is just a basic introduction of what can happen. For example, we want to get the nucleotide sequence of the human beta globin gene. So we search for the gene and then the human beta globin gene. And over here, what we can see, it is that a whole bunch of stuff pops up. From this we can see a little bit of information regarding this gene, and then its name, its ID, the basic information that we need to know regarding this gene. So clicking on the first link, we have this information of human subunit beta, and all of the information regarding the research or articles or the sequences. So what I wanted to do basically over here was to search for the nucleotide sequence. So I searched for the FASTA format, and I got the nucleotide sequence for this gene. And now what we can do is basically compare the sequence. Because I searched for human beta globin gene, I can compare this sequence to, like, for example, like I was ambitious enough to search for in chimpanzees. So I can just BLAST it. BLAST is a basic local alignment search tool that basically we're going to be talking about later in quite detail. But what BLAST does, it is that it finds sequences related to the sequence that we basically have over here. So I wanted to know what sort of sequences of human beta globin gene are present within chimpanzees, like find out the local alignment of that. And I just entered the chimpanzee, and then I ran the BLAST letter. You can do so much stuff. We're going to be talking about BLAST later. There are different varieties, flavors of BLAST, BLAST N, BLAST P. So we can have different information regarding the BLAST as well. So at this point, they're going to basically have a little bit of time in processing all of this different information, and then when we've got that information, I mean the request is done, so something like this pops up, and we are going to be discussing about the different details and the results later. So basically, one of the questions that arises is that how difficult would it be to find out data, right? How hard can it be? So for example, if you're a student and you're very ambitious and you basically, if you wanted to find out the sequence of a representative gene, for example a histone protein, and you wanted to look it up from a credible source, for example NCBI, so what could be the problem of histones? The problem is that there is so much ample information. For example, just regarding histones, there are about like 4 lakh histones in NCBI protein. So how can we tone down this information is that there are specific databases that are available for major players, for example histone proteins. And for example, as I've highlighted over here, there is a histone sequence database, so we can procure the authentic information regarding that particular histone. Otherwise, if we go on to NCBI, so there are going to be different sequences of histone proteins, so there's going to be just a lot of information regarding that. So if so basically what it is that we need to know what we want to do, that is going to help us in procuring the right amount of information. And the next problem is that, for example, if you want to get information about the reverse transcriptase, that is the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase of HIV1, and the gene encoding reverse transcriptase, it's basically known as POL. So how do you find out the DNA and the protein sequence of this particular gene of the HIV? But the problem is going to be that there is just a lot of information regarding HIV present out there, because so many people have worked on it, so many people have sequenced it. So what the NCBI has to offer us now, it basically gives us a standard database or a standard sequence that can be known as a reference sequence, and when we basically search for it, we can get this reference sequence, and this is a sequence that can be used as a reference. So over there, the problem of getting variants or getting sequences that are not complete, it can be targeted in this way. But again, we need to know what we have to do in order to do it right?